And a very good morning on this Thursday, the 3rd of February, as we bring you this special edition of Today. It, of course, is the morning after Cyclone Yasi first made its very fiery breath felt on the coast of Queensland overnight, and we'll bring you up to speed with where things are up to. North Queensland residents are going to be greeted by scenes of destruction at first light this morning when the full impact of the cyclone is revealed. Early reports suggest that the communities of Mission Beach, where the Category 5 monster made landfall about midnight, nearby Tully and Innisfail, are the worst hit. The good news this morning is that the Category 5 has been downgraded as it hit land to a Category 4, so that at least is some good news. But the fury of Yasi has been felt hundreds of kilometres away, in Cairns to the north, Townsville to the south, and all places in between. Yasi's wind gusts of up to 290 kilometres per hour are far from done with North Queensland. Forecasters are still trying to get a handle on the scope of those storm surges that were sent into coastal communities, no doubt having huge effect on the coastal low-lying areas. Now, we are having, as you can understand, with weather activity like this and storm activity like this, it's playing havoc with communications. But I do believe that Carl, who of course has spent the night in Cairns, which has felt the eye of the storm in the last couple of hours, is joining us now on the phone. Good morning to you, Carl.
Good morning, Lisa. Yeah, pretty much a sleepless night for everyone here in Cairns. It was a strange kind of night. It really kind of built and built and built, and we were up until about 2 or 3 in the morning after our hotel asked us to evacuate into one of their centres just at the hotel. And at that point, you could really feel that wind and that rain driving into our hotel windows. And looking out across the city right now, it's probably worse in terms of rain right now, but the wind has died off ever so slightly, but still a very dangerous situation here in Cairns. The good news, if there is any also out of here, is that those tidal surges, those storm surges, haven't eventuated at this point, even though we are heading towards, it must be stressed, a high tide of 9 o'clock, around 9 o'clock this morning. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with that, along with any localised flooding that is being caused by this torrential rain that is coming down at the moment. I know through the course of the night things got progressively worse, having spoken to Sarah Harris in Innisfail, also talking to Alison Fletcher in Townsville, things difficult there. But I think you're right, Lisa. I think the areas around Mission Beach, Tully, those kind of areas in Innisfail itself definitely bore the brunt of what happened through the course of the night, and it may be a little bit of time before we're able to discover what happened in Tully. And also out off Mission Beach is Dunk Island. Were staff able to get off Dunk Island? Was anyone over there still when this hit? Not sure. Communication problems a bit difficult, but as we broadcast live across the nation, we'll be trying to find out about those particular areas, because I'm sure authorities are going to be very keen to assess the damage there as well. We'll
go to Alison Fletcher, who is in Townsville, in just a moment, Carl. But before we do, where is the eye of the storm in relation to you? I know it passed over. Are you now feeling the wall of that second hit of the cyclone at the moment?
No, I'm not sure exactly. I haven't had a look at the latest reading, but I don't think Cairns got hit by the eye of the cyclone. In fact, it passed probably about 100 kilometres south of here. You're talking about the Innisfail areas and down to Tully and out to Mission Beach, possibly down to Cardwell. So Cairns did miss the eye of the storm, but it's still got a lot of those destructive winds around the eye, in excess of probably 240, 250 kilometres an hour. But that is purely a guess at this point, just judging by what I've seen in the past. But we'll have to get clarification from the Weather Bureau about that. But certainly things would have been a whole lot worse if that eye hit this major population base as well.
OK, Carl, stay there. We'll get back to you very shortly. Let's go now to Alison Fletcher in Townsville. Alison, what are you seeing where you are?
Well, Lisa, the wind is still just so fierce here in Townsville, and that's really what's been the most frightening thing all night. It's just been relentless. The rain here has kind of stopped, but trees are just still going everywhere, and where we are, the motel seems fine. The shade cloths and things like that, the structures that are, more loose at the front of the motel, they've been torn completely to shreds. I'm walking out on the street to try and give you more of a perspective from there, but I can tell you it was some pretty frightening hours early this morning as that storm passed over. Just every time a new gust of wind would come, you would just feel that extra, little jump in your heart, and it wasn't pleasant. It was horrific, and there's things like awnings that have come down around cars. So I'm seeing sort of guttering that's come down in the main area of the motel and out on the street. Look, it's still really dark here. The storm surge is what people were worried about in Townsville, and as soon as we get any sort of light, we'll be getting down into those areas just to see how much water is around. But yeah, very, very frightening night here, Lisa. I guess the people of Townsville are just slightly relieved that they didn't cop the eye of the storm either, but not something you want to live through.
It certainly doesn't sound it. Alison, we will come back to you as well, but let's go now to Sarah Harris, who is in Innisfail. How was your night, Sarah?
Oh, last night, I tell you what, it's a pretty rough and wild ride. We're waiting for a good 4 or 5 hours, and all of a sudden, we actually felt our boat start shaking. We felt windows pulling, and it was more than just the wind all night. It was really sort of roaring guttural sort of wind that we had passed at the top of us. In fact, you could explain it, in any sort of way. Say it was almost like being on a passenger jet as it was taking off. You could feel that pressure. You could feel your you could feel sort of your stomach sort of slip as the wind sort of roared over our hotel. It was fairly scary. We lost power at about 10 o'clock last night, so it was pitch black. We only had some lights on in the main hallway of our motel, thanks to a generator. So that just added to the fear of what was happening, because going through that in the dark, not knowing what's happening outside, and the only thing you can really do is feel the force of the wind around you. It's a pretty scary thing to enjoy.
And power is still out there, is that right, Sarah? Can you hear me, Sarah? No, I think we might have lost Sarah. We'll get back to her shortly. Let's go back now to Carl. Carl, some very good news this morning is that that Category 5 has been downgraded to a Category 4.
Yeah, it's good news. It's good news to an extent. You've got to remember, Lisa, that Category 4 cyclones are incredibly destructive themselves, and moving from that 300 km/h winds down to 250 km an hour is significant, but it is also incredibly destructive still at a Category 4. I'm just looking at these pictures and showing the audience across Australia these pictures around Cairns this morning. This is what I'm talking about, what we're dealing with here. A lot of trees are being blown quite significantly at the moment. That was really ramped up in the last 3 or 4 hours. In fact, it didn't really hit Cairns until around about midnight, and then it was a real slow hit of Cairns. Then the driving rain kicked in about 3 hours ago. You can probably make out, though, that the majority of the Cairns CBD area still has power. We had communications, we had phone lines not so long ago. So as far as bearing up against this cyclone, the force of this cyclone, because Cairns was to the north of it, you'd have to say that Cairns itself, the CBD, this is just the CBD, is holding up okay at the moment. Okay, from what we can tell, it must be stressed, and we're trying to get more information on that. We think areas to the south perhaps might be worst affected, and as you track down the coast, of course, to where Sarah is in Innisfail and out to Mission Beach, we'll have to find out as the morning goes on how everyone has fared there. Let's get an update, though, on the weather situation from the Bureau itself. Sylvia Jeffries joins us. Sylvia, where is the cyclone right now?